I was gonna start saying, goodness gracious me, OBS has not been very kind to me. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. You are joining us for the Christian Anime Podcast. It has been a while, chat. It's been a crazy week. A bunch of things happening. Actually, I was gonna start off with some Twitter drama, I guess, but wait. Actually, let's see what's happening on the old Twitter. I probably won't show a lot of what's happening on the old Twitter because, mainly because people have been posting like unwholesome stuff that would not be safe for YouTube. So it's yeah. Um, wait, where are we? Where are we? Let's go find it. Let's start off with this. This is been really popping off. I've kind of been on the roll. I've been on the roll with the Twitter stuff. Where are you? Where are you? Where's the post I made? Where's the post I made that apparently a bunch of people are very, very, very angry at? Let's find it. Let's find it here. We'll start off with this today. um, because and we won't go through the replies because I haven't censored them or anything. There's some really really funny ones on there. Dinkus asks, podcast on, could you please do a video on Attack on Titan? I'll consider it. Unfortunately, there's a few video ideas that I've got right now that would stop me and prevent me from doing a video on Attack on Titan. Basically, let's see. There's gonna be I'll give you a sense of the direction of the main anime that's gonna be focused on next month, which is there's gonna be an Onomai video, a really big Onomai video as well. It's not it's yeah, very big Onomai video. There's gonna be an Oreimo video as well. Um, Maybe a Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai video, um, and maybe a Tokyo Ghoul video. So I might do an Attack on Titan video, but it depends on. It really, really depends on what happens with those others. I'm gonna do Tokyo Ghoul first before I do Attack on Titan. So thanks for asking though. I will consider doing it though, if I do have time. Podcast on, I saw Chibi reposted on you. Total L on his part. Yeah, no, I think I'll just show you the tweet that I posted. So basically, I said, in light of recent discourse and the thing, I might actually make a proper video on this explaining why we should ban it. Some of the responses and the replies, you'll see a lot of people bringing up the same arguments, right? Which is like, oh, you can't stop people from watching it. This isn't going to change anything because people are just going to use a VPN. There's just going to be a black market for this stuff. And oh yeah, we shouldn't be legislating morality, blah 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 blah. Like it's the same arguments, which are very very easily refutable. Which is why I think I will actually make a dedicated video refuting some of those arguments because it's very easy to refute. Right. One of the things that you could talk about, for example, is how I'll address this one first, and I'll include it in the video. But basically, people talk about like, oh, we can't ban this because people are just going to use a VPN. Okay, cool, right? That's not the point of the law, right? Of course, there are still going to be people using VPNs, right? There's still going to be people doing that. However, it's going to stop. It's going to stop the next generation, right? So, the next generation growing up in this environment where corn is banned, or spicy, very spicy spicy content is banned, it's going to stop them from watching it, or stop them from getting into it in the first place, right? How many of us, like, I want to I'm pretty sure most of you watching, because like the statistics are like 70 to 80% of men having are having regularly watched this as well. I, as well as someone who used to be enslaved by this thing, I am now by the grace of God, I'm pretty sure I'm on day 39 now. I'm 39 days free from this thing. But how many of you, right? How many of you were exposed to this as a child or accessed this as a child, and because of that, because you accessed this as a child, that enduring addiction continued on into your adulthood, right? Like I'd like to think most of the kids, right, growing up without the internet, most of the kids growing up without a phone, an odd 50, 60, 70 years ago, they didn't get into this stuff because they weren't exposed to it. They weren't living in an environment where it was so easily accessible that they were able to get into it. And not only were they able to get into it, but they were also able to like get very easily addicted to it. So a ban on spicy content isn't meant to like of course people are still gonna use a VPN to try access it in other countries, right? But the point is, right, that it's meant to act as something which prevents the next generation, and then the generation after that, and then the generation after that growing up. It's meant to stop them from entering into that addiction in the first place, right? So it's not meant to be for those people who who are already very addicted to it. There are other things. Well, it wasn't as easily, of course, it wasn't as easily accessible as it was today, right? Like the fact that you can access it freely, free of charge, and some of the most horrendous content that you can access on your phone, you're not going to access that same thing. Like, of course, you can easily access it at a shop, but when you're doing it, right, you have to go to the shop, you have to pick it out, you have to go through the embarrassment of like purchasing it at the store, right? All of those things were deterrents which stopped a lot of children, a lot of kids, and a lot of teenagers, I should think, from actually going through with it in the first place, right? What is your take on Halloween as a Christian? Videos coming up on that, so I'll wait for before I give my proper answer, because yeah, there's been some other things. Another argument as well which people bring up, which is like the black market stuff again. Like the ban isn't meant to be for of course, if people are so addicted that they'll keep doing it, they'll keep doing it. But the other thing which I really don't like actually is the slippery slope argument, which is so stupid. It's such a stupid argument, because let's talk about the ban on murder, let's talk about the ban on grape, let's let's talk about that, right? That is government literally banning something on the basis of morality. Why is it that we of course, let's turn back 3,000 years ago. It wasn't fully agreed by society that murder was a bad thing, right? It's not like a, oh my goodness. It boggles my mind, because 3,000 years ago, three not even 3,000 years, like 1,000 years ago, people were just like murdering other people for the sake of it, right? It wasn't unaliving people for just for the fun of it, right? It wasn't as if there were there were still some restrictions in like the communities, right? Like if you did unalive someone, there were consequences for it, right? But even 1,000 years ago, like when you think about all of the wars, all of the pillaging, that people just did it, there were discussions that were going to be had, that had to be had, in regards to murder and grape and etc etc etc, where people then started developing these laws that, oh, maybe we should ban this, maybe we should restrict this from happening in the first place. And then like there wasn't a slippery slope, there was no slippery slope in which because murder and unaliving was banned, that that suddenly the government just continued gaining more and more power. It's just like like think about all of the laws that we have right now. Think about all of the good ones, particularly in regards to like those extreme crimes. There wasn't a slippery slope where the government just kept restricting more and more and more and more things, right? And there's just so many things with it. There's just so many things which I'm very frustrated by. I'm really frustrated by when people, because people haven't thought about this as hard as they could. Also, one thing that people also like these guys always bring up, right, which is like, oh, the same people that are gonna you're trusting the same people who want to ban corn, that they'll actually ban anime next. That's just a reflection of your lack of political participation, right? I, I don't I don't say that to be mean, right? But you notice, like leftists are very good at being politically active, right? They protest regularly, right? They go and they go and actually get involved in political parties. It's not like, and I'm not going to assume this for most of the people who are yapping to me, right? Because I'm assuming, right, these people. I hope these people vote at the very least. I hope these people aren't complete neats where they're just like indoors. But and I make this point, right, because let's say there was another ban on there was a ban on corn, right? um, are you so politically active, and are you actually involved in a political party? Are you actually involved so that you're able to talk to your local representative? Are you so involved in politics that you have access to all of these people where you can actually campaign? Or do you have like a social network? Do you have a social network of friends where you're able to like actually go and make a difference when it comes to, because remember, we live in a democracy, right? Of course, if there was a, like, let's say, and let's say we all agreed, yep, let's ban corn. And then suddenly there were people who are like, oh, these same people are the same people who want to ban anime. All right, then I'd actually get involved in politics, and I'd actually get involved and try join a political party and have those discussions on why we shouldn't ban anime, right? So I don't think the slippery slope argument is probably the worst one, because it's a indication of your lack of actual real world political engagement, and it's an indication of how much you are probably very terminally online. And I say this as a very terminally online person, right? So yeah. Brian panty matches is not comparable to modern stuff. Yeah, for real, for real. Yeah, I agree with that, Austin. That's it. So yeah. Sorry if it seems like I'm pro banning, you're pro corn. Again, like, this idea of I don't like that. Oh, it's authoritarian. Um, it's just it's just not very. I don't think it is, right? Let's be very careful when we're talking about, oh, this is authoritarian or not. Remember, we live in a democracy, right? Like, we live in countries where you are able to run for office, you are able to join political parties, and you are able to affect political change in that manner, right? Through protest, through organization, all of those things, right? So I don't think it's not reasonable to say like, oh, this is very authoritarian. Maybe that's an indication that you need to get more involved in politics. Is the thing. So yeah. Jackal Enterprises says, which is why I've given up on all my dreams, because doing them or not doing them, revolution is going to happen either way. I'd still say do your dreams, or like depend. It really is like my advice to anyone who's like thinking, oh, the end of the world is going to come anyway. Well, God's still giving you time. We still don't know when the appointed time is. And because God has given you time, and this is something that I constantly think about, because I waste a lot of time, right? Which is ultimately we need to be using our time as best as possible, because God has given it to us. Starship says, if there's any legislation, it needs to be carefully worded so that it's not a way for the government to ban other media they deem bad. Yeah. So, and this is like, let's take a look at the but you realize the vast majority. Okay, look, again, I'm gonna say this, and I say this really important. Like, this is a really pertinent point. Yes, the vast majority of people who are addicted to corn will continue to watch corn. Right? They'll do it through. They will find a way. They'll find a way, like through VPNs or whatever. Like, I'm not. I have. I don't ever deny that. Right? Like that's a thing that will keep on happening. But I say this, right, because a ban on corn, this is why I preface this at the start, right? A ban on corn is meant to stop the next generation from being able to easily access it. That's what it's all about. It's not meant to stop the people who are like the people who are already who are already addicted to it, they're gonna be able to, like, the people who are already addicted to it, there are other ways to help them, right? A ban on corn, of course, is going to help them. It's meant to help the next generation. It's meant to help the next, it's meant to create a culture to help the next generation not enter into it so easily. I'm saying they would vote to keep it. Let's talk about it this way. So the one that's currently the thing that's currently happening in the UK government, right? So the Labour Party has voted to, well, is has moved in a direction to ban corn, right? However, because they've banned corn, is there another political party that's going to be explicitly like, this is our single issue that we want to increase corn again, or like we want to unban corn? Because this is what I mean, right? Which is like, people, let's say the Republican Party right now, that they made it on their policy platform that they would ban corn. Do you think that that all of these gooners would then suddenly vote for the Democratic Party? No, because like this is because this is the fact of a two-party system in the United States. You're not gonna suddenly vote for the Democratic Party based on a single issue, right? You're gonna vote. You're still gonna vote Republican. And like, look at all of the Republican states, right? Look at all the states right now where Cornhub, you know, that the site where that particular site is no longer is no longer accessible in all of those states, because mainly because of Republican state legislatures, right? So it is able to work. Are all of those gooners now going to suddenly vote for the Democratic Party based on a single issue? No, because even though they disagree on one issue that the Republican Party stands for, there's still a vast majority of issues that they do disagree with the Democratic Party, so much so that they're not just going to vote for it. So, yeah, you have no idea how petty American voters are. No, I don't think that. Here's a big issue. Like on the pro-life issue, right? How many people who are pro-life aren't actually like politically engaged, or don't actually vote for a political party, or don't actually campaign for the Republican Party simply because like they're too and I'm gonna say, right, simply because there's this strange idea in their mind, right? That it's like, oh, let's not single issue voters tend to not really change elections. So yeah, most of the hardcore gooners are in Democrat states already. Yeah, for real. By help, I mean help from getting cured of their addiction. Yeah, there are other ways to help them. Like, as I said, like a ban's not going to help them, right? It's meant to help the next generation. I think we should get rid of the internet altogether. I don't think we should do that. So that's hot take from the Christian Anime Podcast. But I don't think we should ban it. Wait, give me a second, guys. I just have to whoops. Let's. I have to return. Yeah, you can't watch your cat edits anymore if the internet has been restricted. So, yeah, man, I hate this. I hate this season. It's already spring here in the land of Australia, and I get really bad hay fever. So, goodness gracious me, it's a terrible thing. So yeah, all of that will be there are other arguments in favor of it, which I'll go through um on the old thing. I'm glad that Axiom, I think you did bring up a good point. But again, like, I think this is this is my key concern, right? Which is, why don't we have a conversation about it in the first place? Japan technically has a ban on corn. For those of you who have accessed something from Japan, you'll notice that there are certain parts which are censored. All right, it hasn't stopped. Like, why don't we why don't we start like, Japan's not an authoritarian country, right? Like it's still a free democracy. I don't see why we wouldn't move in that direction. At least adopt. Like, why wouldn't we just at least adopt the Japanese model where they do have censorship on that, right? Let's say there was a technical ban on corn. We adopt the. Why don't we just adopt the Japanese model? On their ban on corn. It hasn't stopped a lot of people from accessing it, right? It's still producible, but that's one first step that I think. Why don't we even consider that? Why don't we even consider the Japanese model? Or I know in South Korea as well, the South Korean model. I don't understand why we don't do that. And prohibition, if I hear one more thing about prohibition, right? One of the main reasons why prohibition failed, and I say this seriously, right, is that there was not enough money put into enforcement, and some of the failures of prohibition were as a result of people not able to not being able to I'll give a few things, right, which is like people being able to bribe cops, or bribe the or, bribe the law enforcers, like the prohibition agents, right, or not being able to even like the prohibition agents not even being able to like properly enforce their laws. That's where I think that's where the failures of prohibition came from. It wasn't the fact that there was a prohibition in the first place. It was the fact that there wasn't enough money put into enforcement of a thing. I think the way they should have instead done prohibition, right? I think they should have slowly phased it in, right, where they regulated its access to young people, or if this is the way it worked, right, where slowly but surely the the age at which you could access alcohol would slowly increase, right, from 21 to 25 to 30 to 35 to 40, right, like etc etc etc. I think like I'm not sure if that would work, but that's something you could try, right? How fast could you how quickly could you change a society, or how quickly could you change a culture, right, if you just slowly increased the age at which you could drink alcohol, right? Um, I think that's definitely true. I think people conflate the corn argument with the gun argument. The difference is gun rights have a moral and philosophical grounding. Corn doesn't. Yeah, for real. That's another one which gets me annoyed, and it's very specific to America as well, because the majority of countries around the world don't have gun rights. And I'm not gonna I'm not like a big gun rights advocate for here in Australia, because it's not a discussion that is usually had, and most Australians actually agree not to to have a restriction on gun rights. So yeah. I mean, imagine how many jobs there could have been during the Depression, but I suppose it's all speculative. Yeah, that's another thing as well, which man, when people use the economic argument. Okay, like if there is let's take unaliving as an example, right? If there was a big massive market for people unaliving people, right? Let's say it was so economically amazing for people to start unaliving, for hitmen to start existing everywhere. Is that such a would that be such a good idea? No, it wouldn't be such a good idea, would it? I think the economic arguments are usually they're not very good, right? Because what we're talking about is the morality of the argument, right? I still think let's quickly talk about prohibition for a second, actually, because even though this is I'm saying it this way, right? Because there's actually a ton of countries around the world, right? When I'm talking about like a bunch of Muslim countries where prohibition has worked, and I'm wondering, how is that? How's the yeah, for real? Paleon, won't someone think of the GDP? That's literally it's all the major political parties. It's no longer a worship of God, but it's a worship of GDP, is what it is. Most political parties have become religions of the worship of GDP. That's all. That's all it's become. Um. So yeah, yeah. I would say my views, but murder is biblically yes. That's right. Like murder is biblically wrong, in the same way corn is biblically wrong as well, right? And that's why. But if you brought up like the economic argument for it, that it wouldn't make any sense because like even if something was economically like viable, right, it doesn't matter in regards to the morality of all of it. So yeah. I'm actually not someone who is pro prohibition. I'm just using prohibition as an example, and I'm giving you examples of like I'm giving you thought experiments of how I think it would actually be how it would actually be possible to for prohibition to actually be possible and actually become successful, because there are a bunch of Muslim countries, right, where alcohol is illegal, and there isn't like some. Of course, they're all third world countries, but it's successful, right? Because there's people who aren't doing it. I think Utah is the other example. I'm pretty sure where there are some restrictions on alcohol where people or the culture has changed there. So yeah, I say this right. So again, I think that's the way to go. If there was a prohibition on alcohol again, I think the two main factors which would need to be in order to make it successful is there needs to be way more money put into enforcement and paying police officers so that they don't get bribed by the big gangs. But at the same time, I think the other way that needed to have been done is, I think, just slowly increasing the age at which you could access alcohol from 21 to 25 to 30 over the course of like 20 years. I think that's the way that you could do it. Um, that only really works in those where the cultural attitude is specifically able to function with it. I think that's also the other thing, right? Which is like there's still a lot of underage drinking in the United States. I think that's the first option, right? Like there needs to be better ways to enforce. That's the first. Here's the grand plan to make prohibition successful, right, in the United States. The first step would be not to ban alcohol at all. Actually, the first step would be to crack down on underage drinking and make sure that that was heavily enforced, and making sure like to reduce that number as much as possible. Then you would slowly increase the age, the drinking age from 21 to 25. Wait 5 years again, 25 to 30, wait 5 years again, 30 to 35. And I think very, very quickly you would change the culture that quickly. So and that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to happen over a course of 10 to 20 years. So there you go. How much harder can you crack down on underage drinking? Maybe like increase the number of police officers and yeah, just patrolling different parties, different areas. And I know like this is slowly getting into like totalitarian land, right, where there's police everywhere. But you know, I don't think that's the end of the world, right? 18 shouldn't be underage though, but that might be off topic. Yeah, we'll go through it. I don't get how people get addicted to alcohol. According to my older siblings, it tastes like wood varnish. I'm a big wine enjoyer, right? Wine, like alcohol isn't that bad. Like, I can see how people could get addicted to it, right? Like they get a thrill of like getting drunk, like the feeling of being drunk, right? But for me, that's for me. So, yeah. Give me a second. I'm just gonna double check. Okay, cool. I think we'll use this passage. We'll use this passage for today to base my argument off of it. All right. So. Um, let's react to this video. Should react to this, or I'll address the community posts controversy first. Let's address this first because I think this is more pertinent than the video. All right. Some of you may have noticed that I've been going a bit I've been going a bit crazy, going, going a bit insane on the old community posts tab. This one was I really like this one. This was a really funny meme. Why has Podcast Son gone off the deep end? Why has he gone absolutely schizo? All right, I'll explain why. I'll give you an example. For those of you who do know Fillion, Fillion's Fillion's actually a really, really good VTuber. I sometimes enjoy watching some of her clips. Right. I don't have time to watch streams, but if there are like highlights, I do enjoy watching this person. Also on shorts as well. All right. You might notice. Let's look at Fillion's community posts. What is it that she's usually posting? And it's pretty much on the daily. It's like they're different memes, like, and she's very easily reposting this and you can see like the number of likes she has, like 26,000 likes, 52,000 likes, 31,000 likes, 42,000 likes, and you can see there it's not really related to her channel. It's kind of memeing. And then there's maybe some fan art here and there. But again, this one's 71,000 likes. Just posting, just posting memes, right? So how does this relate to me going? How many slurs does she post? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think she's a. I know she has collabed with Pipkin Pippa and Fallen Shadow, right? So maybe she is secretly based. But yeah. You can just see here, it's just memes. It's nothing really related to the content of it. So how does this explain me? Whoops. Here. How does this explain me crashing out? So I've just realized the community posts tab, like these have been getting so much engagement, right? It's been really funny just to read some of the comments under these. So especially this one's kind of my favorite one, right? This has been one of my favorite edits that I've done in a while. And I must say, if you don't like me posting this sort of stuff, you guys need to start learning how to do art so you can actually do fan art on me, and then I can repost your fan art instead of reposting stuff that I've remade. This has been really, really funny though. Like I've really liked this one, and this one as well. So I am currently just posting memes on the community tab, just to let you know, so that you don't think that I've gone off the deep end or I've gone insane. So yeah, the YouTube community tab is where you get 75% of your memes, right? So I think this is why I'm starting to do it as well. It is in the same way like with that Twitter post, right? Like that got me attention from Chiba Reviews. That got me attention from the Brandon Reviews channel, I think, and Esperito. I think those were the three big channels. When I last did this, I think I got attention from Permaband, from V, and there was another guy as well, a big guy on Twitter. I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of him right now. So again, right, like. This is how I see the community tab, and this is how I see Twitter as well, right? Which is like, it's ways to get as much attention as possible, so that you would click on the channel, you would see one of the videos, and maybe if you're interested in that's the way to get attention. Is always good, no matter what it takes. For real, right? All publicity is good publicity. So yeah. And that's just the way my humor is, right? Cap fan art, baby, for real. I don't think Jackal says I don't like art. I think it's sinful because fiction is just another word for lying. I don't think that's how many stories, how many fictions did Jesus say? Like Jesus told a lot of parables, right? Which are in a sense fictions. But he told those fictions in order to make a point about the world, right? So I don't think like a fiction isn't like that's insane. That's an insane thing to say. Wait, why were people mad? Well, people weren't really mad. It's just like I was kind of trolling. I'm just trolling in the community posts tab. So yeah. All right. My guy is a master rage baiter. Okay, look, I don't like to call myself a rage baiter, right? It's ways to get attention. I don't like it. If people are genuinely angry about my content, it better be because of some really base thing I said. Um, and I'd prefer that to occur. So yeah. How do you know that they were made up? Let's think about like the parable of the seeds, right? Um, it's in a sense, right? Like you can think about that happening. Like the parable of the sower, sorry. You can think about like, yeah, maybe it was the case that a sower planted some seeds, and some of them were taken away by birds. Some of them grew up in some thorns. Some of them grew up in some, like you could picture that happening, right? Like an actual farmer doing that. But did that actually happen? Right? Like did that event actually happen where a sower planted these seeds and all of those events happen? No, like Jesus is just making a point about it. Even the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? There is a couple of things in the parable of the Good Samaritan where it could have happened, right? It's a situation that could have happened, but it's not necessarily the case that it did happen. Um, as well. And there's a few things in the parable of the Good Samaritan, where it's instead pointing to Jesus, the inn as a representation of the church, right? The wine and the oil as the sacraments administered to the person who is dying, the dying person, right? As someone who is as an allegory for us, right? So there's too many allegories which you could apply to the parable of the Good Samaritan, which makes me think that it's more of a fiction rather than like an actual story that happened. And there are a couple of allegories in some of the parable. That's the only one. Okay, that. I know I've just given you an interpretation of the Good Samaritan, which is probably foreign to all of you. What, the inn is representative of the church and the administering of the sacraments? I've just been in a I've just been in a class called Catholic Social Thought, and that's one of the things that they brought up. And I'm like, you know what? That actually makes sense to me. So I'm not going to complain about it. Um, Parable of the prodigal son, right? As well. That's another one, right? Was it really the case that there were two sons? One was like stayed with the father, and the other one went off and spent all their wealth and then came back to the father. No, like that event didn't actually happen, right? Because the purpose of that, and like the context of him telling that story, right, is that he's telling that story in front of a bunch of Pharisees, where the older brother is meant to be an allegory for those um for those Pharisees that he's telling this to, right, in the first place. So yeah, I say this because yeah, I'm pretty sure they are fictions in a sense, right? Like these things didn't actually happen. And I don't think you'd find it very, very difficult to find someone who would say like all of the parables of Jesus actually and literally happened as events, and Jesus was just retelling those stories. I don't think that's the case. Yeah, I am Reformed Baptist. Reformed Baptist. Unfortunately, though, if I was in America, I would try as much as possible. Let's say I was in America, I would go to an SBC church. Unfortunately, the only Baptist denomination here in Australia is where I live. Right, is the Western Australian Baptists. Baptist churches of Western Australia, I should say. They're unfortunately not very based. There's a few things which they've squished on, but I am still a Baptist because there's no other like I'm sure there's like some independent Baptist churches, but I still prefer to be part of like a particular Baptist denomination. So yeah. Well, if fiction isn't sinful, then how is it that Hollywood just so happens to be one of the most sinful places? Um, if fiction is so sinful, then why is it that the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings are some of the best pieces of fiction? Yeah, I don't. That's correlation doesn't equal causation. I don't think that's a good argument. Like, think of all of the places. Um, think of all of the indie films, right? Independent films, all of the other places around the world where films are. I think Hollywood has a certain culture, but that's not certain. There are other cultures around America, like filming cultures around America, other than Hollywood, outside of Hollywood, right? I don't think correlation equals causation. So yeah. I'm reminded of the Babylon Bee article. Southern Baptist Convention lifts ban on sex after. That's too good. Saint Augustine interestingly opposed fiction as useless. I'll read about that, but I don't think I don't think fiction in itself is bad. It's not illegal. All right, I was sent this video. I'm gonna respond to some of the accusations in it because yeah, we're finally 40 minutes in stream and we're finally responding to this video. This person has titled the video as "Is Christian Anime Podcast Christian?" I'm going to address some of the points in it. I think he does make some okay points, which I will take on board as feedback, right? But the three specific videos that he does bring up are things that I'm going to be like, no, that's probably there are ways that I don't think those verses apply in that sense. So
There's this YouTuber called Christian Anime Podcast, and he has a mascot called Podcast Son. He claims to offer a Christian conservative worldview. He talks about biblical...
And I gotta say, like, compliments, let's compliment this guy first. I think this guy, like, he has this is a really good presenter voice, and I actually really enjoyed watching this video. I think when you look at someone like Daniel, we've been reacting to a lot of Daniel Chun recently, and he doesn't have that good presenter voice. He doesn't have that good way of like being on camera and being on video, right, or being recorded to. So I actually appreciate that someone like this who did make a video, like he's very good at articulating it, and he's like, I enjoyed listening to this video at the very least. So I do want to compliment you in that sense, so that it's not everything that I say after isn't super mean. So I just wanted to say that.
Scripture and anime, with his faith being important to him, as well as his hobby of watching anime. Although he does actions that contradict what the Bible teaches Christians to do. I will get to
let's see. I think, okay, I will say, okay, one of them, which I think it's actually no, I'm gonna stand on this case. I'm gonna stand firm on what I said in this video. This was 2 years ago. I don't think I would use that again in a public forum. But was it an accurate word to say? I think it was an accurate word to say. And the recent video, right? Raptures were predestined to be retarded as well. I think, is that a mean word to say? Or is it an accurate word to say? I think it's an accurate descriptor for the people who were actually freaking... It's just, you cannot be this silly. You cannot be this stupid. All right. I'm gonna and one of the jokes I make, we'll address that when he gets
sins in a moment, but I should explain why his sinning is important first. For a Christian to sin, it represents the religion badly. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us.
All right. Let's just address this first as well, right? Of course, like I will admit this, right? Which is one particular area of my life. I don't actually, this is in an area of my personal life. I don't think it would apply to the channel, but one of the things that I will I do want to make a commitment to is like some of the more sexual jokes I make, or some of the crude jokes I make. I have recently been convicted of this to just stop making sexual jokes, mainly because it's not wholesome, right? It's speech that can be condemned as well, according to Titus, right? But yeah, but I will say this, right? Let us use, I'm using Matthew 23, and I'm looking for this place here. Where Jesus talks to the Pharisees, and he labels the Pharisees as, there's as hypocrites. He labels them as blind guides, and there's a place where he uses the phrase "brood of vipers." Yeah, you brood of vipers here as well. So yeah, is that's pretty mean of Jesus, right? That's pretty mean of Jesus. But I think there is a place, though. I think in expression of speech, and Jesus does provide us the example here where he does label like what would be called as like whitewash tombs, brews and vipers. Yeah, bro was pulling no punches, right? I think there's a sense in which I don't think it's, if it's the accurate term for it, if if the term is accurate as possible. And I say this about like the where are we? I say this in defense of, where is it? I say this in defense of this video in particular, right? Rapturists were predestined to be retarded. Yeah, I'm gonna say that word. I'm completely comfortable saying that word. I know there are like, if there was someone who was bullied like for being for who did have a disability, right? That would enable them to be like, that someone did bully them for and use that slur against them. I wouldn't ever say that, right? I don't think, if someone was to, like, I don't use words to specifically demean specific people who are of those disabilities, or are of those who do belong to those particular groups, right? That's not something which is like, I agree, you shouldn't be using that, right? But however, the context I'm using it in, right? The word retard, I'm not using it to specifically like target people who are mentally disabled. I'm using it as a word to describe what the people who are believing in this October 6th, September 23rd, September 23rd nonsense, right? Like, I was using it as a descriptor for them, which I thought was accurate. Like, it's an accurate term. I target them accidentally? I don't think so. I just reject that. I reject that claim, because I, like, let's say it's not like words have different meanings in different contexts. And I think most people who are watching on the internet, I think you should be grown up enough that when you hear those words, like when people say mean things about me, right? And this is something that I want to, I'm aiming to build up in myself as well. I don't want to be like, there's mean stuff said about me, which I want as much as possible to, that people continue like, I want to endeavor that people can say mean things about me, because I don't think it's not helpful for me to be incredibly sensitive, right? When people say racist stuff to me as well, right? It doesn't bother me a lot anymore, because I've built that tough skin, right? I've built that. I've come to a point where if someone is racist to me, I can push back, and it's not something which particularly bothers me, because it's not that big of a deal, right? When people say slurs for me at me because I'm a Filipino, right? Like, it's not something that particularly bothers me anymore. So yeah, and this is the thing as well, right? When people say horrendously offensive stuff towards men, and like saying like, oh, we should all unalive all men, right? It's those sorts of things, right? Which I think we're all striving to this point where we don't want to be super sensitive, right? And I'm not gonna say this. Starship, I appreciate that. As an autistic person, I don't find it offensive in this context, right? I understand, Smooth creates that you may, there may be people who find it offensive, right? But I don't think it's not helpful for you to find it offensive, because it's not directly targeted at you. If it's the same with the stupid cracker stuff. I don't. Okay, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna prosecute the argument for cracker. But I'll give you an example. Here's another example where like we live in different contexts. The word bloody, right? In the American context, I use the word bloody a lot, because in the American context, it's not a swear word. This is a majority. The majority of the people watching this channel are 50. It's like 50% American audience. So it's not as if it's going to offend anyone if I say something like bloody. If I use that context, though, in the British context, it is going to be offensive to someone who is British. Does that mean that all Americans need to stop on the internet, need to stop saying bloody, because like it's offensive and it's a swear word in in the United Kingdom. No, like, yeah, that's not a that's inconceivable, right? So let's coming back to the word retard. Yes, I understand there are some people who are genuinely offended by it, but I think that's a reflection of on you, that you need to be less sensitive about these things. And not only that, I'm not targeting that word against you. I'm targeting it to people who are there's, how would you describe it, right? Like, if you is there any other way, is there any there's no other way to describe the people who were believing the October 6th stuff and the September 23rd rapture other than as being stupid and retarded, right? There's no other descriptor at which you could you could apply that label to it. So yeah. And okay, there is something else that I was a bit out of pocket for. You know what? Maybe I do retract the statement, or maybe I don't. I'll still have to think about whether or not I do it, because it's been a while. It's been a while since I've dropped that particular slur. So
may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Titus.
yeah, that's another thing, Joelbound, as well. A lot of the Bible is also it is in itself offensive. There's a reason why when you preach the truth to people, they do get offended by it, because it's like the offense is something, right? When you say something which is truthful, that I have the complete expectation that there are going to be people who find it offensive. But are those the people who are the particular target audience for the channel? No, it's not necessarily the case. So yeah.
Chapter 2, verses 7 and 8 of the English Standard Version.
Yeah, but isn't that a bad thing? Isn't it a bad thing that there are versions that people have created versions of the Bible to be less offensive? No, it's that's a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing for people to literally change the word of God to be less offensive. There's a reason why. Like, if I think about this passage, right, or if someone were to rewrite this to be like, oh, let's make Jesus nicer and less mean, like, that is offensive to the word of God itself, that you would change it to change some of the things. But here's another thing. Where is it? Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Is that not an offensive passage? Here we go. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9. Here we go. 1 Corinthians 6. Here we go. Or do you not know that wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who have sex with men. Let's read the whole passage while we're at it. Nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards. He's calling them greedy. Isn't that offensive? Like, that's an offense. He's calling them drunkards. He's calling them thieves. Nor verbal abusers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. And what is that? And that is what some of you were, but you were washed and sanctified, and you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of God, right? Oh yeah, do you not know that the wicked will not inherit the kingdom of God, right? It's all of these things, right? Look, isn't that an intrinsically offensive thing that Paul is writing here, right? Yeah, like I cannot possibly fathom what a less offensive version would be, because it is offensive in itself to the word of God if you were to change it to be less offensive, right? I don't think it's a...
I think the YouTuber is a Christian, although I do admit I could be wrong. I think
okay, and I will admit, right? Like, that's a good thing, right? I'm glad that you do think I'm still a Christian, right? Because like, that's good, right? That's a good point that you bring up. And as I said, right, I did actually enjoy this one. I'm gonna okay. Let's give another compliment to this guy. I do appreciate that there's a guy I'm watching who actually has a good voice, who has a very good presenter voice. This is a well edited video in the sense that you're going through all of these different points. So I do appreciate all of those things, because some of these videos are really, really bad. When people actually respond to me, they're not very, very well edited, or they're not as sometimes they're very annoying, right? So I appreciate about this about you. It's a good video in that sense. I just disagree with some of the points that you're making.
he just needs to realize his mistakes. He should publicly apologize for his public mistakes with removal of certain content he made with improper Christian behavior, and try to continue with his life following God by God's word. The act of foolish talking and jesting is immoral, as stated in Ephesians.
I will say, yeah, this is, as I said, this is something that I have been personally convicted of recently, right? Particularly on coarse jesting, right? Which is like, I do make jokes which are coarse, right? In my personal life. I don't think, I think that is something that I am endeavoring to just stop doing, because it's just, there's no place for it, right? In terms of silly talk and coarse jesting, though, or the things that we're saying, I don't think, again, like, I continue to maintain my thesis, right? That I don't think the silly talk or coarse jesting, it does not apply to what I was saying, because like these are accurate descriptors. These are words which have been invented by culture, which are accurate descriptors to label these people, right? Why does this part of the video read like a hostage demand letter? I don't know.
Chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us, and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God.
And I'll mention this as well. Was it unloving of Jesus to call the Pharisees a brood of vipers? There's also another passage where it's like a wicked generation. Is it in this passage? Wicked generation? No, the verse I'm thinking of, right, which is like a wicked generation seeks a sign, but he calls them wicked as well, right? Is Jesus being mean here to the Pharisees? Is Jesus being unloving here? And I would say, right, this is part of God's love, right? This is part of love, right? Which is love isn't necessarily polite or nice, right? Love is something which is like, if it desires the truth, love is patient, yes, love is kind, but love also is truthful. Love is also truthful. And with those examples brought up, right, rapturists were predestined to be retarded. I'm gonna keep saying the word. I need to stop saying the word before YouTube bans this stream. Goodness gracious me for saying the slur too many times. Is that an accurate? Like, it is an accurate descriptor, because there's no other way. Like, and it's meant to get the attention of people as well who were really believing in that stuff. That it's as well. So yeah.
But sexual immorality and all impurity or covetousness.
I'm gonna be very careful in answering that question, follower of Christ. So if I were to watch something like DS or Code Geass, which have some nudity or sexual content, as long as I'm not falling, you think it's okay. I had an exchange with a friend recently where they were talking about like not wanting to be put in environments that would cause them to stumble. And yeah, it's difficult for me, right? Because I think it really is like, do you really want to be placing yourself in situations where you would be put in that environment, put in that mindset, and then eventually be caused to lust and stumble? And I would say you are capable of doing, you can do it. We have the liberty as Christians to do all things, right? All things. But all things are not profitable. And some things will cause us to be some things are also unhelpful. So yeah, this is why like I've been holding off on a recommendation of Code Geass in particular, and why I continue to like mention like fan service and different anime as a warning to you guys as well, because all of those things are all right. I keep saying, Jackal, are you just trolling at this point? This freaking guy. Nudity in art is not intrinsically sinful, but do not venture into temptation. True. Yes, that's it. And legal amendment, as a Christian, I don't imagine you purposely want to be in a situation like that. It's the same thing, right? Which is like, if you were dating someone, right? If I did have a girlfriend right now, would it be wise for me to be like, hey, let's specifically schedule a date night, where we hang out with each other from 7 to midnight, and you also get to sleep in my bed, but I'm not gonna. You get to sleep on the couch. We're home alone. we're the only ones people in the house or the apartment we're staying at. Is that like we are capable of doing that? We can do all things, but is that a thing that is wise to do? Probably not. So yeah, probably not. Pharisees know the Old Testament. Jesus could say rude things to them. Gentiles didn't. Gentiles should not have said rude things. Let's go to the passage where Jesus calls a woman a dog. Let's see. Matthew 15. You know, it's kind of funny that I can think of certain stories just to let's read this passage here. Matthew 15, starting from verse 21. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And a Canaanite woman from the region came to him, crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is miserably possessed by a demon. But Jesus did not answer a word, so his disciples came and urged him, Send her away, for she keeps crying after us. He answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The woman came and knelt before him. Lord, help me, she said. But Jesus replied, It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. So Jesus literally calls a Canaanite woman a dog, right? And again, right, is that unloving of Jesus to do, or is he saying something which is truthful? Is he saying something which is like this is something which is an accurate descriptor for what this woman is in context of like the old covenant, which was still in place, and the new covenant had not been signed as well, had not been established. The new covenant had not been established. The humanity was still under the old covenant. So it was an accurate descriptor to call this woman a dog, right? And he says, Yes, Lord, she said, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. And he says, Oh, woman, Jesus answered, Your faith is great. Let it be done for you as you desire. And her daughter was healed from that very hour. So, yeah. We shouldn't call people dogs, but sometimes people only respond to severe words and severe action. For real, I agree. But remember Matthew 22. Matthew 5:22. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Anyone who says to his brother Raka will be subject to the Sanhedrin. Let's just double check that. Raka as Aramaic expression of contempt. Yes, of course. Like I agree with that, which is like I and this is why like I don't use words specifically to target people. I like to target people on the basis of their identity, or to be specifically mean to them. However, if it's an accurate descriptor, and this is all it is, right? If it's an accurate descriptor which I am using to describe behavior which is absolutely silly, like even I'm not going to say the F slur on YouTube, because I'm pretty sure that will get me banned, right? The only thing that's stopping me from like absolutely dropping it all over the place. But even with that, I've been thinking about it. I wouldn't actually use that word to target someone who was actually gay or homosexual, right? I think it's an accurate descriptor. It's a word that I think I would use in polite company, but I wouldn't use that word to be mean to people. And I think that's the one retraction I think I'll make, which is like that it was funny at the time to use that word in that tweet, and that was kind of based, but I wouldn't use that word again in recent times, and I definitely would not use it to like target someone who was actually homosexual. So yeah. Whoa, Ian and Amelia
must
here.
not
Welcome,
even be
welcome.
named among you, as is proper among saints. Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there
podcast son needs to make even more jokes and funny posts. And look, like this has always been my struggle, right? Which is like trying to find the fine line, which is like how far is too far? How have I crossed the line here? And I think there I do appreciate. Okay, here's another compliment for you, Smooth Creates. I think I appreciate people like you, because you do bring to attention when I may have gone too far. I don't think I've gone too far in one or two of the cases which which you're using here. Probably in the first case, right, where you do use the F slur. I think that's probably something where I have gone a bit too far. But all in all, like, if there is ever a point where I have actually crossed a line, like, I do appreciate it when people let me know. So then I reevaluate, and then we turn it back a little. That's all it is.
Be thanksgiving. For you may be sure of this, that everyone who is sexually immoral or impure, or who is covetous, that is, an idolater, has no inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words.
Hey, podcast son, how would you envision Christian versions of non-Christian animes? I don't know what you mean by that. I would say, like, if you watch the video I have on Manga Sensei, because that video in particular explains why I think even the most, like, heinous and evil of animes, like Manga Sensei, like, you can still, the fact that you can still see God in the most evil of places, and that's the whole point of that video. I would direct you to that video, in a sense that this is why, like, literally all anime is Christian anime, in a sense, because of some of the points that I make in that video. So yeah.
For because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not become partners with them, for at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Now in Podcast Son's video, yes. Toxic Relationship.
I still remember when I made this tweet as well. This was, as I said, 2 years ago. I have changed my tune a little because I think I was in an environment where it was very acceptable to say those sorts of things, and I reflect upon it now, and I'm like, yep, probably not a good idea. So
conservatives in anime. At the time, 4 minutes and 23 seconds, he says,
I too have banger tweets that pop off like this one.
Man, this is like classic Christian anime podcast. This is when I actually had a cool thing. Why is it not acceptable to you now? I think let's see. I say same-sex friendships have been distorted and perverted in modern society. Instead of seeing a wholesome brotherly sisterly friendship, degenerates automatically see, and I use the F slur there. Mainly because I don't see it as acceptable now. Probably something I wouldn't say. Again, at the time I thought this was a banger tweet, and this did pop off for me early at the time. But I'm someone now who it's because I acknowledge that if there are people around me who are very who are sensitive to that sort of language, and as I said, right, this is one of those cases, right, where, like, this is definitely targeted to a word that is targeted towards a particular group, and it's not like, let's say, for example, if I was among friends, right, and there was one of my friends who was doing something really gay, I would still drop the F. I would drop the F slur, and I would say, like, stop being such a. I'm not gonna finish the sentence. And I've said that in polite company because I know those friends aren't actually gay and they're not going to be offended if I call them. But if I think in this context, right, it's very easily, it can be very easily misconstrued that I would be saying someone is that particular F slur, and I would be demeaning them in that way, and that's something that I wouldn't do now, and I don't think I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be rude in that sense by calling someone an F slur, and they were actually homosexual, and I think that would draw them away further from Christ, and that's why I wouldn't do that now. That's the no word. No, there's retarded is the other word which I'm being nagged on. I'm actually quite firm on this one, because I don't think it's like the context that you use it in isn't, like, it's not something that because it's so commonly used in society now, it's not something like that is specifically targeted towards autistic people, right, or people with mental disabilities. It's specifically targeted at people who are like, or you can use it in context to say to people, stop being retarded. It is because podcast likes to project on people. That's a ridiculous accusation, Valori.
To translate to a more contemporary sense, that sentence means I too have awesome messages that get popular, like this one, in which we can see a tweet of his that uses both the word degenerates and
Actually,
that
okay,
word.
and degenerate, I don't think it's a degenerate isn't accurate. I'm gonna stand by the use of the word degenerate, because that is an actual, that's a proper term, it's a proper accurate term, which I will continue to use, because you shouldn't be a degenerate.
Word I'm not saying that refers to gay sexual orientation or behavior. These two words both being foolish talk, which
And I don't think the word degenerate, I don't think would apply to, I don't think Ephesians applies to the word degenerate. It could apply to that F slur. So
demonize people, when much kinder words like people and romance could be used.
legal lament. So at what point does a word become acceptable or non-acceptable? It really depends on your environment. And like, I belong in a friend group where I consistently push the boundaries, because I don't like being, I want to be as unfiltered as possible. I don't like being in friend groups where I have to censor myself or I have to filter myself, right? I want to be as honest as possible and continue to, and this is why, like, this is, and like, when I'm online, I really have to put myself on a leash. It's really unfortunate when I do that, because I'm not as honest and I don't say the things that I'm actually thinking. Which is why when I'm in friend groups, right, like I push those boundaries, because like I can actually say what I'm thinking, and I can actually freely express myself in those particular friend groups. And that's really, I think that's where words become acceptable and non-acceptable. It really depends on the particular people that you surround yourselves with, unfortunately. So yeah. My friends make jokes that some could consider racist. Now we're all different ethnicities, and that's the thing as well, right? Which is like I belong in there are so many like I belong in a group which is like very disproportionately Asian and Filipino. And the thing about Filipinos is that we are definitely very very racist to each other, which is I don't think like if you are actually being if you are actually being racist and demeaning someone for the color of their skin, that's of course completely unacceptable. But I think particularly amongst Asians and Asian immigrants, I think we've developed this culture where it's like it's okay to say like racist things to each other because it's funny. It's a funny thing to say. So.
Used. Even saying degenerate people instead of degenerates would have been nice. To keep the idea of this tweet still disapproving of the action of this perversion, you could have also added a sentence like, "It's sad."
I mean, I could say, right, like that's another thing as well, which is I think I could have used instead, degenerates automatically see perversion, which is that's also a word which is perfectly acceptable compared to the slur that I used instead. So yeah.
Really? Now on to a more relevant example of improper use of language to talk about people. In the title, rapturists were predestined to be, I'm not saying that word, he used again another word that dehumanizes people, when he could have made a better title like rapturists made a mistake again. Sadly, he knows that this
and again, right, like it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be clickbait, but it is meant to be clickbait, right? But in order to get a message out, and I really wanted to get this message out to like people who were believing in this stuff, that to stop being retarded, right? And that's why I still stand by that decision. I won't be making any changes to that in the near future. I might change my mind again in 2 years' time, but particularly on the use of the word retard, right? I don't think that's something that I wasn't specifically targeting that at autistic people. I was specifically targeting people who were generally being stupid, being stupid in regards to the rapture prophecies and predictions. So yeah, all I'm seeing is a whole lot of based. You know what? I appreciate everyone who is supporting me in the comments as well. So
The title is provocative, as we can hear at the start of the video.
hello everyone. I know it's a very provocative title.
He also says the title of his video at minute 4 and seconds 57.
I am genuinely convinced that these people have to be predestined to be returned.
To, I guess, use repetition to ingrain the message
I
he
love
wants
that edit. That's a really based edit. Not gonna lie.
to teach. Yes, I agree with his message. I only disagree with the way he delivers it. The word he says is a slur that now has the purpose of dehumanizing people to subhuman levels, perceiving them as extremely mentally.
And I think you're making a lot of you're making a lot of assumptions here, right? Which is, yeah, like how when people use the word retarded, are we saying to people that you are literally subhuman and you are no longer you're not human anymore, and like you need to be discriminated against on this? But no, when people use the word retarded, right, it's to refer to behavior which is really stupid. Like it's dumb behavior, it's unintelligent behavior, right? Are we saying they're subhuman? No, I don't think so. You ask any person who does use that in their vocabulary quite often, I don't think that's what you would use. So yeah,
Subhuman. That word is foolish talk today that should not be spoken by the Christians called to be saints and repent of their sinner lifestyle. Saints do not wallow in.
I want to address that point actually. So Smooth Create says, "See the past. That's how it was, and still remains in that sense. Just say foolish actions." Okay, what do you think about people who? What do you think about African American people who actually use the word the N word, right? Like, meaning I wouldn't drop the N word around an African American person, but the fact that African Americans now use that word despite its historical usage is an indication of how like that particular word can change. Like words change meaning. Right? And when we use retarded today, like, yeah, it may have had a certain connotation in the past, but it's like it's not the case today that people are using that word. Maybe there's some subsection of people who do still use it, right? That's still bad, right? And I would condemn that. But in the context that I was using it, I don't think it was.
Their life of sin. Now, why I can say the word wallow, even if it is an action done by animals, is because it is a verb, an action word. It is not a noun that dehumanizes. It is an action that compares the actions of people to animals, which are not humans. Not only these
this one I still disagree with, and I'll give you my opinions on why I'm still standing by what I said in the Momonga Sensei video.
Words of foolish talk came forth from his being, but also crude joking too, in how Arrow.
Also, I didn't realize that this was what you're referring to when I said this on Discord. So I'm going to explain more the context behind why I said what I said in this video.
Sensei teaches Christian theology. He says a crude, sarcastic joke. I know it's most likely a joke because of what he texted in Discord.
Yes, I have a sense of humor, which is, and man, that's still a based profile picture, isn't it? Far out. While watching this anime, I genuinely wanted to krill myself.
This is a joke.
Yes. Okay. Is that bad? What specifically about that was bad? Like it was a reflection of how I was feeling, right? Which is like when I was watching this anime, when I was watching the first episode of Momonga Sensei, I genuinely wanted to like just end it all, because that's how bad it was, right? I think that's the beautiful thing about the English language, right? Which is you can use so many ways in which to express yourself and how you're feeling, and it's for entertainment purposes. Like it's I think this is a nothing burger, right? Like this isn't even targeted towards anyone. This isn't even targeted towards like a particular group. It's specifically referring to myself and like how I was feeling. I think this is a nothing burger. It makes human life seem like a thing worth. And I just don't think you have like my advice to you, Smooth Creates, is I don't think you have a sense of humor. That's all it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is something which is intrinsic to the Christian anime brand. This is something intrinsic to the community that I'm wanting to build here, which is like that we do have a sense of humor, right? Or that we say things, we say things as unfiltered and as truthfully as possible as well. And I don't think I think you are making a massive leap in logic when you say you are making human life seem like a thing worthy of joking, and it should be precious instead. I don't think that's from what I said there. I don't think you are making too far of a leap. I should think in when you're jumping between those two, between what I said, right, which is like I wanted to krill myself because of what I was watching, and it's just I don't know. These type of Christians criticizing Christian videos are so. I don't think Alpha. Look, I think there's an appropriate time and place, right? So yeah, it's not the end of the world. Suicide is not a joke. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna labor the point anymore because I think it's just there's yeah, of course there may be certain contexts in which I'm not gonna say it around people who have genuinely committed or tried to attempt right, but it's yeah, it's conceptual, but hearing it out of context was shocking. Yes. Imagine thinking you get to decide what counts as a joke. For real. Don't think you might be going a little too far in some ways? You don't want to create an audience that makes light of serious things. I think that's the way that we handle serious things, though. Yeah, that's just in a world as broken as ours. Yes, we should be having compassion. That's true. But the way we handle it is definitely through humor as well. The way we cope with the brokenness of the world is through humor as well, and it's a good thing. Humor is a good thing that God has gifted us, because if we didn't have humor, we would be way more depressed, and I don't think that would not be helpful for any of this. So, yeah. People make 9/11 jokes all the time, for real. And I don't think that's something to be. Again, it's the coping mechanism of a society when something as tragic as that does happen. Right? I don't want to take away from the enormity and the scale and the tragedy of that particular event. And I just said the event as well. There's a thing on YouTube which specifically detects when people say that the great accident of 2001. So yeah. Oh, Smooth Creates, man. It's just I'm not okay. We're gonna continue. We're gonna labor. We're gonna continue on.
I know it's most likely a joke because of what he texted in Discord. This is the joke. A better thing than that joke would be not saying that joke or saying instead that the anime made you feel very sad. Christian anime.
But is that like again, right? Like does that have the same impact though? Like it's if I were to say, right, oh, this anime made me very sad. Clanad made me very sad. But is that the same emotion I was feeling when watching Aramanga Sensei? No, I was feeling something else, like that feeling that I wanted to like just to krill myself. That's the it's a reflection. The way I'm using these words is a reflection of how I've been feeling at a certain time, and when I was watching Aramanga Sensei, that was what I was feeling.
Podcast. I see you have thousands of subscribers and hundreds of videos, but I implore you, look at your videos and remove what is offensive to Christianity because of the actions which you have done in those videos. Please make content that is not like the content which I have been talking about. I know you can do better, so please do so.
All right. Well,
There's the
well, thanks for the submission that Smooth creates. I do appreciate it. That was, I will say, was considering some of these videos aren't as well made. I do appreciate it that it was a pretty okay video, pretty well made video. I do like the presenter voice again. But in saying that, I do disagree with. I agree with some of the points that you did make, and those are things which I have thought about. But at the same time, I don't think a couple of the examples that you did bring up, particularly in my use of the word retard, and I think that joke as well in the Aramonka Sensei video. I don't think that's it's not something which has convicted me in my conscience as it has done with search and other things. So yeah, but in saying that, I will probably unlist that video. That video you were referring to. Let's see, it's conservatives and anime, a toxic relationship. I will probably unlist that because just it's not a video I'm really happy with 2 years on. And yeah, I have way better videos. There's a ton of other videos which you can watch from me which are far better than some of those classic Christian anime podcasts videos. So yeah, there you go. All right. I think we'll almost wrap it up today. Keep the video. I have been thinking though of like unlisting a bunch of my old videos so that people keep the attention. You know what? That's something I'm seriously considering. Like some of the older Christian anime videos are gonna slowly transition away. So as to maintain the focus on the main channel. So yeah. I think you have made better conservatives versus anime videos aside from that one. Yeah, there is. That's true, right? There are better videos and more updated ones which people can look up. So yeah. Once again, I distracted you from my from your homework. I apologize for that, Starship. Smooth Create says, I think my video will stay up as a warning to others. Yeah, it's definitely true. Letter Boy says, stay humble, for real. So anyway, with that, thank you very much everyone for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. For those of you on this side of the Pacific, for our American friends, I hope you have a good rest of your evening. And with that, watch more Christian anime content. Go take a look on the channel. Recommend it to your if you've watched a video and you really think that one of your friends or family would really appreciate that video, I think you should do them a service by sending them a Christian anime podcast video. So with that, have a lovely rest of your day. Take care.